Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to my fourth video in my 12-part series on Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition. The focus of this video will be on the fourth optional rule in the Anniversary Edition game. It's the first one that's not actually located in the rulebook. It's located in the FAQ and errata, so let's just take a quick refresher on what's going on here. The actual game Anniversary was released in October of 2008. And the errata was released 5 months later, in March of 2009. This is not an uncommon thing to have happen with strategic war board games. So after several months in the field, there's a wider audience and more feedback can be collected. And then errors from sentence structure issues in the manual all the way to gameplay can be addressed in an official errata, which is what we have here on the right. So there's a lot of clarifications in this errata specifically, but the most interesting thing is on the last page. The last page of this errata has two optional rules, and the first of which is going to be the subject of this video. And the name of it is Dardanelles Closed to Sea Movement. Let's zoom it in and take a closer look. So the rule reads, in order to maintain its neutrality, Turkey closed the narrow straits linking the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, permitting no naval passage by any belligerent nation on either side. No sea units may move into or out of Sea Zone 16. However, air units may move through this sea zone freely. Let's get the camera on the map and we'll go into what's going on with this optional rule in detail. Okay, so we've got the camera set up on the area of the board in question. Specifically, we're looking at Sea Zone 16. So what this rule does is restrict naval movement specifically, and the area it's restricting is right here, this little piece of ground right here. No naval units can cross this point. So any boats in Sea Zone 14 and 15 cannot move into 16. Any naval units in 16 cannot move into 14 and 15. Yes, Sea Zone 16 is still an active sea zone. Technically, the industry in the Caucasus or any industry built in Bulgaria, Romania, or Ukraine could produce boats in Sea Zone 16, but if this optional rule is implemented, it means they could never leave it. I'm just saying that to be thorough. The real and actual implication is that any fleet units here would not be able to move into Sea Zone 16. And now we're going to go ahead and set up all of the at-start pieces on the board in this area. So this is the initial setup for the Italian, German, British, and Russian forces for the at-start 1941 setup. And the rest of this video, the rest of my argument, I should say, is going to be based almost entirely on experience, but I'm hoping to back up what I say here over the course of this series. I will show you and demonstrate to you some things the Italian player can do to really take advantage of the geography of the board and the at-start setup if you don't use this optional rule, and hopefully you can see where my argument comes from. But I'll just assert this here, and I'll say it at the beginning of my strategic videos. In my strong opinion, this game is much easier to be played as the Axis than the Allies. If you are going to play this game with your friends, someone should get a bid for the Allies. Again, I'll have to prove that to you over the course of this series of videos, but I have to say that here for the rest of my argument to make any sense. Now that I've got that out of the way, I'm going to demonstrate how the Italians can really take advantage if this rule is not implemented. Let's get to shucking, because that's the technique or the tactic that needs to be used here to take full advantage of this as the Italian player. And though the Italian player doesn't have to do this on his first turn or even any turn, the fact that he can do this puts an inordinate amount of pressure on the Russian player turn after turn. And quite simply, if Sea Zone 16 is allowed to be moved in, it means there's nothing to stop the Italian fleet from simply moving into this sea zone and camping here. Now, you might be wondering, well, why would I do that? You know, the Italian fleet has the full run of the Mediterranean, and Egypt and Transjordan need to be gotten. And sure, yeah, absolutely. You can and should, as the Italian player, focus on all the opportunities available to you, not just this one. But you always have this opportunity, and as the Russian player, you must always plan for the Italians to do this thing. And what is this thing? What is why is this move so problematic? Well, it has a lot to do with the fact that the Italians have an industry adjacent to the sea zone just behind sea zone 16. So once the Italian fleet is in this position, it can simply move the transport back, pick up 2 builds, an infantry and a tank, an infantry and an arty, move back into this sea zone, launch at the very least 11-point attack into the Caucasus. That's if they don't throw in this fighter or some other support units to support. And it turns this, what normally would be a 3-turn walk up to the east front for the Italians, into a 1-turn, right? The turn after being built, they can immediately be deployed against the Russians. So this is a really neat and lethal thing that the Axis have in their bag of tricks to use against the Russians. And as I said at the top of this video, this is a trick that the Axis simply don't need. There is plenty of firepower and tactics and strategies that will bend the Allies over backwards, and the Allies will have their hands full. This is not just overpowered. There's some second and third order effects to this as well. For one, sea zone 16 is still 2 sea zones away from 34. So if the Italian fleet feels the need to escape and has this escape hatch available, they could do so from sea zone 16. And the reason they would do that is if the British or American fleets were coming into the Mediterranean and they were simply much stronger. So you can do that from sea zone 16. The German transport can also join the Italian fleet there and act as sort of a shuck gun for any German troops that come in to protect Italy. Maybe they're not needed to protect Italy on the following turn that they're doing that job. Well, just shuck them right up into Russia, right? So there's this sea zone 16 superhighway for the Axis, and yeah, in my strong opinion, it's just not necessary and doesn't help with the balance. So we'll go ahead and recap here and then end this video. We started by actually reading the rule straight out of the errata, Dardanelles Closed to sea movement. We discussed the implications of the rule on the game, first by identifying sea zone 16 on the map and then going over what it actually meant, and then moving into how the Axis can best take advantage of access to this sea zone, namely with the Italian fleet, in that they're able to move troops they built on 1 turn immediately into the Russian territories the turn after they're built. And in my strong opinion, the Axis don't need to have this boost to their strategic bag of tricks. When we get to the strategic videos, I hope this will become much more clear. But for now, I argue that the use of this optional rule is almost a necessity for a properly balanced Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition game. So thank you for watching this. Let me know what you think about the Dardanelles Closed to sea movement optional rule in the comment section below. All the best from the good captain, and bye-bye.